Fans, welcome to a very special edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and I have today with me a man who is definitely on my bucket list of interviews for many, many reasons. A man who has definitely left a legacy in both WCW and WWF. That many fans of our vintage remember, and that would be Mr. Mark Canterbury or Henry O. Godwinn. Henry or both. Welcome very much to the podcast, sir. How are you tonight?
Thank you. Well, I'm glad we finally got this in motion here.
Tremendous. But before we get into some of the questions about your career, I think it's important that we let the fans know that you are going to be involved in a major appearance this coming May 21st in Baltimore. Why don't you let the fans know about that?
Yeah, it's Saturday, May 21st in Baltimore. It's Celeb Fest. You can go to BaltimoreCelebFest.com, I think it is. But me and Phineas is going to roll up in our old stomping grounds in Baltimore. Man, we had some good times there. And Rakishi's going to be coming in from the West Coast, so it's going to be a little BSK reunion. It'll be three of us together, so that's a start.
That's definitely a huge and rare event, and we will put that information for those fans in the area. We have a lot of fans in the United States that would be very interested in checking that out, and my goodness, that will be history in the making. To start with a deep dive into your career, a lot of fans are interested if you were a fan of professional wrestling growing up as a child, and if so, did you follow any particular territory or have a wrestlers that inspired you, so to speak?
Oh my God, I've always growing up, it was, of course, where we lived in Virginia, we got WWF back then. Then when cable come along, I started getting some of the old Georgia Championship, NWA, and all that stuff. So it was good with Gordon Soley. But Dusty was one of my favorites growing up. And it's pretty ironic. He gave me and Phineas our first job. So I was a big Dusty fan.
Absolutely, and what a charismatic individual what he was. What was the moment or the factors that made you decide? I mean, being a very physically large, imposing, strong dude. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but what made you want to pursue wrestling as a career initially?
Oh, I don't know. I just, I've been in sports my whole life: baseball, football, wrestling. It was just something even got me before really football. I was young. I'm talking like 4 or 5. I can remember watching wrestling. And I don't know. It was just the excitement and the entertainment of it just stuck with me my whole life. And then finally I got a break with George South, an Italian stallion, and started. George trained me, and I worked style every night, had the hell beat out of me with him. But that's how I learned. I liked it. Style would always give it to me every night. So I carried that with me. And I don't mind taking, I'll take anything. But I like giving good, solid work.
Yeah, that is something that was a near mark of your style for sure. What about your training process? Do you believe prepared you to be so successful in the industry? Was there anything about training with South and Stallion that you can look back on and indicate that was very beneficial to you in the long term, aside from laying it in?
Well, George taught me mostly the psychology and try to work easy, but I didn't work George that much. I always worked Stal. So I had to learn. I learned from Stal the physical part, and I learned a lot of psychological parts from George, if that makes sense. But yeah, George is really smart. He's a smart cat. And but just I got to work. I was telling somebody the other day, I worked 16 times in 4 days because we used to run anti-drug shows at schools when I first broke in with George and Stout. So we were running 2 shows a day sometimes at these schools up north. And I would work twice at each school. I would work as myself, and then I'd work as Russian assassin. So just the quick, I just got thrown into it. They showed me basic stuff, and then within a month, I had a match, and I was on my way. But just the continuous work. I mean, we run shows every week. They would drive up from Charlotte to West Virginia, and we'd be gone a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, hitting schools and then just running armories. And it was a different time back then. You could pack some asses in some seats, just little independent shows. But he brought Ivan Koloff in, he brought Hands of Stone, Ronnie Garvin in, so he would bring people in, and but those were good shows back then.
Yeah, and that I think that's one of the aspects when people look at the difference between the old school product is the fact that individuals, such as yourself, had the opportunity to work so much in front of people, not in a performance center, but on a regular basis in front of crowds. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because I mean that's how you learn, and it taught me, that just hey, keep at it, keep training, and stay focused, but the continuously working and 2 or 3 times a night sometimes, that's what taught me.
Yeah, makes sense. We've got we're going to be taking some fan questions as there's significant interest in getting your input on some of their topics. Our first one is from Mike D, who wants to know, why didn't WWE put you with Midian in the ministry?
Well, I broke my neck against Hawk and Animal on Monday Night Raw in Binghamton, New York. Then we went to Southern Justice after that, but I was wrestling with a broken neck when we were Southern Justice. I tried that for about 7 weeks on the road, and my neck and everything started getting worse, and it was pinched a nerve in my right arm. And so we were actually supposed to get the belts the night Vince sent me home, because he had a trainer with me for like the whole 7 weeks I went back, and it just kept getting worse. He'd work on me every night, ice, heat, massage, everything. And it just got worse. So the night he sent me home, we were supposed to get the belts for the 3rd time. We were going to go over on Road Dogg and Badass. But I come home and I had to have spinal fusion done. So that's why I didn't go do the Ministry of Darkness.
And those are both topics that I'm planning to address with you. But did you know at the time that you were that injured? What a testament to your toughness, sir.
Well, I'd when it happened on Raw, I just seen a big flash. It didn't knock me out, but I seen that flash, and then I felt something in my mouth, and I was like, what the hell? And it was little chips of teeth in my mouth. And I know Hillbilly jumped up in the ring and asked me if I was all right. And I said, yeah, I'm okay. I think I pulled a muscle. So I walked to the back. And when I got back there, let's see, Blackjack was there, Pat Patterson. And I think, I can't remember who I was there, but I know them 2 were there. And they made me take my overalls down to my waist and lay on a cold concrete floor till the ambulance got there. And I went to a little hospital in Binghamton and had an MRI, and it cracked my C7. So they said, go home for 14 weeks and have another MRI. Well, I come home for 6 and was back on the road in 7 and wrestled 7 weeks. And then finally I said, man, I got to do something, find out what's going on. So that's that story.
Wow. Well, rewinding the tape a little bit, many fans, myself included, who had the privilege of watching WCW Saturday Night, remember your run under a mask as Shanghai Pierce with Tex Slazenger, Dennis Knight, and those great encounters that you had at Center Stage in Atlanta. Wanted to know what was the atmosphere like in that venue, because it's kind of taken on a mythological proportion, not so much like the Sportatorium or whatever, but a lot of fans really fondly remember that. Just your thoughts on that venue and your experiences in that run.
It was an old building. It seems like it held like 900 maybe at the most, if that. I can't remember. It's been so. That's, you're talking the early 90s, but it was like a family there. It was like a party, because a lot of the same fans come. Like when we started the Tex and Shanghai thing, there used to be 3 guys that set up in Center Stage, and they would holler Texas at messing with Dennis with Tex. So and then they started bringing signs, and they would always holler at us. So, but it was a lot of regulars, and the boys. I mean, it was nice, easy, night taping. It was fun, small venues, so you felt connected with people. I mean, it was pretty cool. I enjoyed Center Stage.
Now, after you became a fixture on those tapings, you had a loss to Johnny B. Bad, and then you moved on to the WWF. But before we get to your WWF, why was it that your run ended there in WCW? It seemed like you were on the verge of a significant push, or maybe that's just my memory.
Yeah, Johnny B. Bad took my mask off on TV that night.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing was the reason Tex always laughs at this too. He always brings it up, but the reason he didn't wear a mask is because Dusty said he was ugly enough and I had a baby face, so that's why he put me under. But yeah, Dusty come up, Dusty, Barry Windham, that whole little group back then. They were pretty much running the show with Cowboy Bill Watts, and I got a lot of respect, and I got to thank Bill Watts too, because he gave me the opportunity at Center Stage. I worked Eric for the first time. Eric worked on TV, I think, and we had such a good match at Center Stage. They asked me that night, can you go on the road and work? And I said, yeah. When do you need me? He goes, this week, tonight. So I didn't bring just what I was wearing in my gear. So Arn Anderson's give me clothes to wear, and I ride the first night with Arn. And I'm scared shitless, because I'm just like 3 years in, and now I'm with Arn, and George and Stal are giving me clothes to take on the road for a week. So I go and I work Eric for a week, and that's how I got my job.
So you ended your run in WCW. You signed with WWF. How did that come about? And what were your thoughts when the gimmick was first presented to you? Was that something that you collaborated with in terms of the hog farmer, the name, the whole deal, or what was the process behind that?
Well, Flair had come back. Just to back up a step, Flair come back, started getting his buddies involved, bringing people back. So that's why some of us got, like me, Tex, and Hunter, we all got let go about the same time. And so Harley Race and Kevin Nash spoke for me. up north to Vince and JJ Dillon. So 4 weeks after we got let go, I had a interview. I flew up there and met with Vince and JJ Dillon and went in Vince's little kayfabe office there and talked and for like 3 hours. And man, it was awesome. Just sitting there and like we'd known each other for years. He's just asking me questions, and he's a country boy at heart. He's a ridge runner too, so don't let him fool you. But yeah, just he come up and started. He asked me what I did, and I told him, farmed, worked at a hospital, worked on the psych floor. So he really liked the farming part, and he asked me what kind of animals. I told him we had some cows, chickens, and hogs. And when I said hogs, he was like, what do you do with the hogs? And I said, well, we just ring them, castrate them if we have to, and feed them and grow them and sell them and slop them. And when I said that, man, that's all it took. So he just started bing, 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 that mind. You can see the light bulb in his head. And shit, by the time I left, he had my name, Henry Orphis Godwinn, which Orphis is somebody in his family chain that was their name. I think it was his grandfather or an uncle or something, but that's how I got my HOG name.
Tremendous. So you came in as a member initially of the $1 Million Corporation, and you had some interesting matches with Psycho Sid, and then that match that they still talk about today, one of them, the hog pen match with Triple H, where he got thrown into the pen and slopped. How did that come about? Just I'd love to be a fly on the wall when that was proposed. And how did Hunter react initially to that finish?
And the hog pen match, that was our baby. They set up what they wanted done. They just said, hey, we're going to have a hog pen set up about, I don't know, it was probably 60, 70 feet from the ring. And we're going to have live hogs in there, and somebody's going in at the end. He said, well, actually, both of you are going in at the end. So, man, they brought them things in and built the hog pen real quick, and they were in there all day. So they had shit and pissed, and it was about 6-8 inches deep, and they threw some dirt in there too. But man, it was like a thick pudding when I went in there first. But yeah, me and Hunter come up with the whole match. Vince just let us. I mean, we'd only been there, I guess, 6-7 months maybe, or a little longer maybe. But me and Hunter were married to each other for like 6 months on the road, and I always tell everybody he was a sport because he took the slop every night, and he'd wash his gear out every night and hang it up in his room. But yeah, that was really a good stepping stone. We got a lot of respect for that match. And when we come back, he was bleeding and I was bruised, and we had pig shit in my ear and I threw everything away but my boots. And that's funny we're talking about that because I got my boots that I bought in '94 from Walmart in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. We were living there at the time, and I still have them, and that's the only boots I wore is Henry Godwinn. That's the only thing I saved from the hog pen match. Everything else got thrown away. But I'm trying to get, Hunter said he would sign one, and I'll sign one. Then I want to put it in a shadow box and put the picture between the boots of me pressing him in the hog pen match. But
Absolutely, it was a game item.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a great time. And we were up for match of the year at the Slammy Awards.
Remember that too.
Yeah.
I guess that's called paying dues, so to speak. Mike, a fan wants to know, do you still talk to Bob Holly or Dustin Rhodes?
Me and Dustin have stayed in contact. He just we were just in Tennessee this week, and he liked a couple things that I'd posted. We sort of keep up with each other, and The last time I talked to Bob Holly, I got his number, but I haven't talked to him in probably 7, 8, 9 years. I seen him at a signing, and Bart Gunn was there too. That's the last time I seen them.
So after this period, where did the idea for the Godwinns come about, and did you recommend bringing back Tex Phineas?
Yeah. I went up right at a year. I was up there by myself, and then he had to take care of some personal stuff, and then he came. I kept saying, telling him, bring Phineas up, bring Tex up, and then he had a dark match, and then it wasn't long after that they brought him up, and we did a TV and beat the Body Donnas right off the bat with Sonny that night, and it was pretty cool. It turned out good. So yeah, I was always rooting for Tex to come up.
My associate Jake Walker actually arranged this interview, wants to get your thoughts on the Brawl for All, a question I was going to ask later, but might as well ask you now.
It was horse shit. And Vince Russo was the one that stirred that pot. They should have made him lick the spoon, but he didn't like Bradshaw, and he just wanted to see somebody get a hold of Bradshaw. But I don't know, people were doing stuff in the middle of doing things, and then they have this Brawl for It All, so we have to put everything else on hold. But I think it was a mistake. I mean, I just had surgery on my nose, and I didn't want to do it, but then I said, hell with it, I'll do it. It's $5,000 a match, so I don't care if I don't go any further than the first one. I won on points, but they wanted Bradshaw to get knocked out, which he eventually did. But I thought it was bad for the business, and Godfather got knocked out, and Bradshaw, and it was just not good. It's not what we signed up for. We wanted to be boxers. We'd have went to the UFC or something.
Yeah. Did anybody, when this concept was being floated around to the wrestlers, say where's the upside from a business perspective of risking serious injury?
I think everybody was a little concerned. Of course, Bart, he pretty much run the table, and it was a mistake. It never should have happened.
So back to your tag team as the Godwinns, how was it that Hillbilly Jim was introduced as your manager?
Well, he was the guest referee at the hog pen match. So after that, they just run with that. Phineas come up, and they put us together, and that's how all that come about. Which Hillbilly was a ball to be with on the road. Good manager. We picked each other up, but we had a lot of good rides and good talks, and learned a lot from Hillbilly. Just trying to be like they were back in the day, the Hillbillies.
Yeah, great tag team.
Yeah.
Charles wants to know, what was it like touring WCW, the house show loop in the early 90s? He says they did draw well in the South. In Michigan, they did big venues with small numbers. Well, that's a territory, I guess, correct?
Yeah. Back in WCW, we were actually running two shows. We had an A team and a B team. And me and Tex were just talking about this the other night, because he has a card from the B team. So I can remember some of the ones that we were on the B team. Steve Regal was on the B team. Stone Cold Steve Austin was on the B team. Dustin was on the B team. Pillman was on the B team.
That's a heck of a B team.
The hell of a B team, ain't it? But they were running big shows, and then we were running armories and big high schools and little venues. But it was a good time. We had fun, and it was a good learning experience for me and Tex because we had much more of an opportunity when we left WCW and went up north. So it was, we had more of an opportunity, and it was just a fresh feeling. It was WCW just, I don't know, like a sloth. It was just dragging along, but it was fun there. It was a learning, but we weren't going to get the push there because the higher ups had other ideas. So it was a breath of fresh air for me to go to WWE.
A fan has a question here that I'm going to ask anyway, but Chris wants to know your memories of working with Sonny, which people still talk about today.
Wow, that used to hit a nerve, but I let it go. She was hard. I liked Sonny. She was hard to work with, though. I mean, it was a nightmare sometimes. And yes, she made me knock one of the dryers off the wall at an arena one night, and George the Animal Steel said, "All right, settle down. That's going to cost us money." But yeah, and then she got the special slop. I guess I don't know if you've heard, but a lot of people's heard that.
Oh yeah, is that a rumor or is that actual fact?
It's pretty legit. Yeah, I was. We got the TV that day, and I think Pat Patterson and Vince said, "Hey, you're going to slop Sonny tonight." I was like, "Oh hell yeah!" So just the slopping was fine for me, but we had ate at catering that day, and I made my slop like I always do, about a half a bucket, and I took it in the dressing room and started getting ready. And then when I went to talk about the match, I said, "This Sonny's getting slop. Nobody mess with this." So I left. When I come back, it was about that far from the top. It was almost full. So X-Pac and Razor contributed to it, and a lot of the boys dipped back then. So whoever was dipping, spit in my bucket, I heard. So that night, poor Sonny, she had the little shorts on, the Daisy Dukes and the cowboy boots, and her little cowboy boots filled up with that slop. So it was, yeah, that's the story.
That's tremendous.
True.
That's tremendous. We just don't put a quality product like that on the air anymore.
No.
You had a very heated feud with the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, and that was the angle where you attempted to break Road Warrior Hawk's neck. What was it like working with them at that stage of the career? We've seen and heard a lot about their level of satisfaction or lack thereof at that time, where they weren't coming in and squashing everyone. Did you have a positive experience working with Hawk and Animal at that time?
Well, I guess they had got a lot of that shit out of their system with no selling and just beating everybody up. You both have to tell a story, and it has to be believable. But by the time we got to work with them, they had sort of settled down because we were bigger than they were. So, and we were at a point in our career we wasn't gonna let people just kick our ass and that's it. So, but it was a good little run. But the breaking neck and really put a damper on everything, and we who knows what our careers would have been if that wouldn't happen, because the Southern Justice was getting big and getting ready to take off. And so it's sad, but I guess everything happens for a reason. So just
Yeah, that was another one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Being a very big man, was it ever sort of discouraged to take that doomsday device, because it's usually not it well correct me if I'm wrong, but it's fairly difficult to deliver safely to a very large individual such as yourself. Or was that just one of those accidents that happen in wrestling?
No, yeah, I never should have been taking it. I mean, 6'7", 320 pounds taking that. And, Hulk was short. So there's another disadvantage. And I mean, Animal was short. I was on Animal's shoulders and he's short. And Hulk wasn't himself that night. And I told the office I didn't feel comfortable taking it. And we suggested just me and Animal going down like the electric chair as one. And they said, no, the office wanted to flip. Dennis said, well, I'll take it. I've taken it before. And they said, no, they want Henry to take it. So sure enough, a little while, about an hour and a half later, broke my neck.
Brutal. Did you know when you had the impact that that was the case, or maybe it was just shock?
Yeah, like when it happened, I just seen a flash. And then, like I say, I felt little chips of teeth in my mouth. And I got up and walked to the back. I told Hillbilly, I said, oh, man, I pulled a muscle bad or something. And then, a couple hours later, I found out at the hospital up there that I had cracked my C7.
Brutal. We spoke a bit earlier that Baltimore at celebfest.com on May 21st, there's going to be a huge and rare BSK reunion. Fans, you need to check that out. This is one of those events that doesn't happen every other weekend. But I wanted to ask you if how the BSK formed. I understand it was an organic sort of thing, and a lot of the online folks speculate that the BSK was kind of a reaction to or response to the Click. Can you clear that up once and for all?
Yeah. Well, we'd been me and Yoko and Taker and Rakishi, and then when Godfather came, we were all hanging out together. And Paul Bear, he'd go out with us some, and that was the original group right there. And Fuji was around some, and Brian Adams' Crush was around a little, but mostly it was that bunch. And then when Phineas come up, I sponsored him to get him in the BSK. So, but yeah, we just hung out. We played dominoes. So Yoke and Taker come up with the bones. The bones were the dominoes, and then this Bone Street Crew, and they spelled crew with a K. So yeah, it was just guys that enjoyed being around each other. We didn't have any heat with the Click. It was nothing like that. It was just they hung out more with each other, and we hung out more with each other, and we just tried to help each other with our careers and things in life in general, outside the ring. So we were just a very diverse group. And I mean, there was black, white, Samoan, Asian, Puerto Ricans. I mean, and we all just enjoyed being together. And when it's not so busy and we can get together now, we have a good time, and just a good brotherhood, a good love for and respect for each other.
Yeah, what a badass crew when you think about it. In 98, you dropped you touched on this previously, the pig farmer Godwinn thing, and came up with Southern Justice, which I thought was really cool at the time, where I guess you were bodyguards for Tennessee Lee, Parker, and Double J. What was the genesis of that concept? And I take it your injury was what shortened that run, because it seemed really over to me as a fan at the time.
Oh yeah, that was going to be. I come up with that name too, Southern Justice, and we had little. I don't know if you remember, we had the little cards made that said Southern Justice, problem solvers.
Yes.
I just got like 500 text sent me, the original ones that we had back then. Wow. He had like 1,000 of them. So I think he sent me like 500. I got them about a month ago, the original ones. So it's pretty cool to have them. But yeah, that was going to be big. That was getting ready to take off. Like I said, we were getting ready to win the belts for a third time, ask Southern Justice. But just couldn't do it because I had to go home and take care of that. But that come about because Vince Russo said, we had the belts twice as the Godwinns. He said it would look better if we were more believable. So that pissed me off because I'm thinking, when you come to my town in West Virginia, my little town, everybody wears freaking overalls. You tell them it ain't real. But anyway, that's how that come about. So they wanted to put the suits on us and change us up, which I was fine with the Godwinns. But yeah, Southern Justice would have been fun. But that's how that come about. And of course, with my broken neck, I couldn't do it.
What made you finally decide, with that horrendous injury that you just couldn't go on anymore? Was it the physical pain, or was it, just concern for your long-term welfare?
I'm a stupid man because I wasn't even thinking about the long term. I was just wanting to get back, and finally the pain got too much. I mean, I couldn't lift 15 pounds over my head. I was doing 90-pound dumbbell presses, and I couldn't do 15 pounds with this arm. So I knew something wasn't right, and it was hurting all the time and I was on the road regular. I mean, having matches, but yeah. And during that little spell was when we were with Double J, and we oh my gosh, the guy that Howard Finkel, we shaved Howard Finkel's head on Monday Night Raw, and I loved Howard. He said, after you boys did that, I never grew my hair back out. I actually liked it. So if you look at the pictures, he always kept it like that after we shaved his head on TV.
What, in terms of, I know it's difficult to compare, but out of your three major gimmicks, so to speak, what was your favorite? Would it be the Godwinns?
Yeah, it would have been the Godwinns. I mean, we had fun as Texan Shanghai, but that was more of us getting our feet wet and getting to know people and learn a little bit more about the business. I just felt the spotlight was bigger up in WWF. So I was glad they let it go. It was sort of sucked when it first happened, but a month later I was up meeting with Vince and JJ, and shit, the rest is history. But it was a good experience up there and a good opportunity.
Yeah, it's just interesting that for those of us of a certain vintage, that at the time WCW business was down, but my goodness, there's a lot of fans that look at that early to mid 90 period back with great affection. It definitely memorable work. Charles wants to know, was there a team that you thought you had great chemistry with or enjoyed working with the most?
Oh, well, in WCW, we had great matches. Matter of fact, the Beach Blast with Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio. And I love both them guys. I was just with Charles at a signing not too long ago, a few months ago. And, but we had great chemistry with them. And the Headbangers, loved working the Headbangers, probably one of our favorites. The Blackjacks, Owen and Davey. We had some good ones with Owen and Davey. But yeah, it was after we got up there, it was the tag team bracket was good. I mean, it was fun. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, something that's really missed today is that golden era of tag team wrestling. You mentioned Owen and Davey. Brendan wants to know if you were ever ribbed by either or both, and if you were, can you share it?
Yeah, well, when I was telling you, when I mentioned Davey and Owen, this certain thing always pops in my head. We were running little shitty towns in Canada, and we were working Davey and Owen, and we were at this little hockey rink, and there was probably 3 or 4 thousand people there, just a pickup show, and Owen and Davey come to the ring, and it's not real bright in there, so it's a little dimmer. But Owen has a banana stuffed down in his trunks, and so they're out there for a few minutes. Him and Tex lock up. He spits water. He's been holding water in his mouth. So I mean, just little things like that. Of course, Bart and Billy Gunn, we had always had a good time with them. And I remember we were up in Hyannis,
Michigan?
no, out by the Cape, up by the Hamptons. Hyannis, I guess.
In a sport?
I think over that way, Massachusetts, somewhere over that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tent town. They got one of them big fancy tents, and the boys been wrestling there for years. But the Smoking Guns had unhooked Phineas's overalls, so they come down. So now we're all four of us are laughing, and I'm covering my mouth in the corner, trying not to show everybody that I'm laughing. So they get Texas. They finally take his overalls off of him. I don't know if that's what started the naked Midian or whatever, but they got it off of it, and we just little things like that. Really, Tex can't remember. He says, "I'm glad I have you because I can't remember everything." But yeah, we had some good times with all the tags up there.
Definitely. Speaking of BSK and the Undertaker, actually, the Godwinns took part in the in November of 2020, the Undertaker's retirement ceremony at Survivor Series. What was that experience like, considering the lengthy period of time that you've worked together and known each other and been friends?
Well, we even said it in an interview when we were there. We hadn't all been together in 20 years. We've seen each other here and there, but not everybody together. It was me and Phineas and Savio and Taker and Godfather and Rikishi. And when we first started out, Timmy White was partied with us all night. So,
R.I.P.
Yeah, I love Timmy. But what a great night. And as soon as we all got together, it was like we were back in the locker room, goofing around or at a bar somewhere or eating. We were like a bunch of big kids. And Yoko, he was a big kid too. He was, God, what a sweetheart. And yeah, it just clicked for us. And it was an awesome time.
Yeah, and what a would you agree with a lot of the pundits that assert that the Undertaker gimmick was the greatest gimmick per se of all time? Because you can really see how it could have gone badly if it wasn't in the hands of Mark.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best, or not the best of all times. And he always worked hard and focused on his gimmick. And I know they got away from it with the American Badass, but he's always been the Undertaker. I'm so glad they went back to that, and I'm sure he is too.
Absolutely. Chris wants to know how were your interactions with Jim Cornette?
Cornette, he's a different cat too, but I like Cornette. I've known him for a long time. He even got slopped once with the Sid thing. So very intelligent, knows a lot about wrestling, and he's been behind the scenes, so he knows a little bit more than us about shit that goes on. But I like Cornette.
Brendan, speaking of the Undertaker again, wants to know if has anyone ever come close to having the Undertaker break character, so to speak, back in the day, not recently.
No, I don't think so.
That's one of the reasons why the character was so special for so long, because he really stuck to that kayfabe mentality. Now,
and
sorry, go ahead.
He was the man in black, when we went out. Of course, we all wore black back then, and black sunglasses. We all had the Ray-Bans, so it was just a little culture we had, man, and I really miss them days. But that was a good time.
Do you watch the current product per se, be it either WWE or AEW, and if you do you concur that we're missing a lot of the the good stuff, so to speak, that made wrestling so popular and special, and that being storytelling in exchange for move after move, high spot after high spot? What are your thoughts on that debate?
It doesn't seem like the stories are told as good as they used to be, and it's a different time. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Well, I guess the business has to move on, but I think there's a reason why the Hannibal TV is so popular, because we focus on classic pro wrestling in addition to some of the new stuff, but the contributions and the characters of people like yourself really resonate, and I'm not so sure that we're going to be in the same situation 25 years from now. But Mark, I wanted to just ask you again, in addition to the big signing coming up, the Baltimore celebfest.com, May 21st, do you have any other projects that the fans should be aware of and can support? I remember you mentioning something about some other merchandise per se.
We Hassel just come out with our new figurines. They're the throwback from the 90s. We seen the prototype up in Ohio about 6-7 weeks ago, but pre-orders are out now, and they're pretty cool. We've seen them, so y'all get your pre-orders in and enjoy them.
Where do you know where they can pre-order, or do you have that information that we can post later?
Yeah, I can get it to you. I'll get it to you. And I think
we'll definitely follow up
this weekend at the Celeb Fest. I think Ahmed Johnson's going to be there too, is what I heard. So there'll be a few up there. I don't know who else is going to be up there, but there'll be some talent up there.
Perfect. Well, we'll encourage all the fans to check that out. And in the meantime, where can they find you on social media to keep up with what's happening with yourself?
It's Henry Godwinn on Instagram.
Do you have a Facebook?
I try to stay off that. Instagram would be the best.
So Henry O. Godwinn on Instagram, or Henry Godwinn?
Henry O. Godwinn, all one.
Perfect. Well, sir, I really appreciate your time today and would again encourage the fans to check out the big event, the BSK reunion, and watch for that merchandise because it's definitely going to be a collector's item and will go quickly.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time, sir, and you're welcome back here on the Hannibal TV anytime that that you so desire. It's been a great hour and appreciate your time again.
Yeah.
Fans, that's it for another edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast. Want to encourage you to not forget the big event in Smith Falls, Ontario, this coming July the 15th. The link is also in the description for tickets at ticketweb.ca. We have Carlito signed, Teddy Hart, Magnum McLaren, and the Blood Hunter will face, just signed and announced today, C.W. Anderson, ECW original. So be sure to check that out, ticketweb.ca, and we will catch you again on the Great North Wrestling Podcast.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal